And welcome to the latest edition of the Pump Fake. I'm Jarrett Bailey from USA Today. That is the man who killed New York Times Sports over at the Messenger, Mike Tanier. My friend, it's so good to see you as always. How are you?
Oh, it's good to be back. It is absolutely good. Back to work, back at the Messenger, back deep into the NFL season.
And we are getting deep in the NFL season. It's already week 6. My goodness. It always goes by so fast, does it not?
The beginning of it goes by like a whirlwind, and then you reach that point, and especially a parent around the holidays, although my kids are getting older now. It's like, what week is this? When does the schedule go down a little bit so my Sundays are normal? It's like, oh, not until mid-January, and then it's playoffs. Like, oh my God. But for now, it's a whirlwind.
It is, but it's a fun whirlwind.
Yes.
And I know that, we've got a game tonight. We'll touch on Chiefs Broncos. I want to talk about potentially, we talked about how funny Vikings Chargers was going to be earlier in the season, and it lived up to expectations.
Yes.
But now in LOL Bowl Part 2, it is the going to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. Dallas is 2.5-point favorites for Monday night. Hey, I asked Doug Farrar this a few days ago. I'm going to ask you the same question. Who needs this game more, the Chargers or the Cowboys?
I think the Cowboys need it more because you can't fall too far behind. You can't lose 2 straight. I think that's a organization where people will start talking at each other, where the questions will come around. The Chargers are the Chargers are the Chargers. They tootle around in the bottom of the wild card picture, and they come out 10-7, and they declare that a victory. So I would say the Cowboys need it more. And I was say, looking at this, the Chargers are back in the Chargers didn't have all their injuries in training camp like they always do.
Yeah.
They just wait until like week 3 or week 4. I don't know who's out there right now for that team.
I know. Well, Mike Williams is obviously gone for the year, so it's going to be the Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson show. Is Eckler? I assume Eckler's expected to play.
Eckler is back. I saw some injury report. I'm just going to pull one up real quick.
Yeah.
Where I just said this again for these poor guys. Like, I kind of like making fun of the Chargers, but not when everyone's hurt. Chargers injury report.
Well, they do have. I mean, at least Herbert's not dealing with he's playing with 3 good ribs this season. That's good.
He's got the other pinky. His other pinky.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we don't have injury reports coming up for this week. Let's look at last week, see if I can get anything off of that. Oh, it's not worth it. It's not good podcasting. Anyway, LOL Bowl. The fourth quarter is going to be where the action is as both teams try to cough the game up.
There's been a lot of talk around Dallas for good reason. They got slaughtered by the 49ers. They didn't even look remotely on the same level.
Right.
And if you get beaten arguably worse than they beat the Steelers, that's probably not a good spot to be if you have Super Bowl, NFC Championship, somewhere deep January aspirations. It's one thing if you do it to Pittsburgh, who is just a tire fire on offense. Dallas is supposed to be, okay, you know what? We got CeeDee Lamb. We traded for Brandon Cooks. The defense is supposed to be really good. They got boat raced, man.
Yes.
I do agree with you. It is bigger for them because, like you pointed out, if the Chargers win 10 games and win a wild card game, they're throwing a party there.
Right.
Brandon Staley might get promoted to president of player operations if they do that this season. It's going to be that is a giant win for them. But yeah, do you think how big of a deal is it if Dallas does lose this game? Do heads begin to roll there, or murmurs coming out of that building?
Everything is a slow burn there. I don't think they make changes in October, but Jerry makes up his mind on situations like this, and make his mind on McCarthy, or if Prescott has another 3 interception games, I'm not gonna do the extension. I'm not gonna do the extension, and he'll start having a couple of whiskeys in him on his radio show and talking up Trey Lance and stuff like that. And those things do tend to snowball for the Cowboys. And I was thinking about injuries just now, and you realize I don't know the status of Deron Bland at cornerback. Yeah. Jordan Lewis, I don't know where he stood at the end of that game, because not only did they get boat raced, but all of their cornerbacks, Diggs already out, all of their cornerbacks got hurt there. And it's one thing to say, well, we lost Diggs, that's a blow, but we can compensate. It's another thing to be down to Noah that gentleman, and these other and these other guys in your secondary. And you're going up against Justin Herbert, and he doesn't have any receivers again, but it's still not an ideal situation for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Justin Herbert's throwing to Jarrett Bailey and Mike Tanier at receiver right now, which seems to be the theme for the Chargers over the past few years. I remember last year going into that 49ers game, I think DeAndre Carter was his number 1 receiver.
Oh, my God.
Because Allen was hurt and Williams was hurt, and I think Josh Palmer was dealing with something. He had no one.
He had no one.
So, I mean, if you look at it from that case scenario, he's kind of used to this, which is kind of advantage Chargers.
Right. That's the truth. And, Allen still plays at a pretty high level, but you start saying, I think he's got Keenan Allen. Like, well, Keenan Allen's like 31 now or something like that. He's kind of a possession guy along the way. So, well, there you go. You have a bad secondary against a bad receiver core, right off the bat in this LOL Bowl. By the way, I thought the LOL Bowl was going to be Bears Vikings. I'm really in a different state of
that'll be a whole other LOL Bowl for different reasons.
The ROTFL Bowl or something like that. But yeah, if the Cowboys lose, heads might roll at the end of the season. You fall completely behind the Eagles, you fall completely behind the 49ers, and you start to fall behind the Lions. And you start falling into that position where you might not be the first wild card, maybe you're the second wild card, and you've given up the division. This is not a team that is demonstrating that it's going to run any kind of gauntlets in the postseason at all. So you start to ask yourself, well, and Jerry will start asking himself, well, is this configuration of the team, and that means Dak, and that means McCarthy, ever going to win anything?
Yeah, he's going to start, like you said, Stephen Wilson like, well, Trey Lance, we did trade for Trey. We got the confidence in Trey. Like, Jesus, Terry, calm down, man.
Yeah, you can hear it. You can hear him saying stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Steven face palming in the back, and the guy who does the director of personnel like saying, oh no, this is where we're at now. Okay, here we go. Buckle up, guys.
And sticking in that division, the Eagles play the Jets this weekend. I picked them to lose against Los Angeles. Like, yes, they haven't lost yet. They haven't looked like themselves for 4 quarters yet. Like against Tampa Bay, I think the score was a little bit misleading to how that game went. It was an ugly offensive game for both sides. Yes, they put up points against the Commanders, but they also had to go to overtime, and they let up a lot of points to the Commanders. Like, Philadelphia just hasn't looked dominant yet this season.
Yeah, they didn't look dominant really at the beginning of last season either, if you go back and look at those games. And when they did look dominant, it was against Cooper Rush-led Cowboys or something like that. And a lot of the talk at the beginning of the last year was that Eagles haven't played anybody. Eagles have an easy schedule, et cetera, which was true. But sometimes you can build your resume on your easy schedule when you're winning all those games. And it's a little like that, too. It's like they haven't played the choke garbage pail teams of the NFL, but they played all of like tier 3 here. Like, here come the Vikings. Okay, that at full strength, that's tier 3.
Here comes Mac Jones.
Here comes the Buccaneers with no Tom Brady, and they're beating them. So I wrote a thing at the Messenger. I feel like Eagles fans, especially before the Rams game, were like the sky is falling. The sky is falling. This team can't do anything right. And against the Rams, they played well enough to like shut some of that stuff up. But you're right. I don't see this overwhelmingly dominant team. I think the problem we have now, I see in the entire NFL, one overwhelmingly dominant team. It's the 49ers. Eagles fans see it too. We all see it. That's that team. And then who are you putting number 2? You can put the Chiefs number 2, certainly. You can put the Bills number 2. Bills have lost 2 games.
Yeah.
Chiefs aren't beating up anybody.
They beat up the Bears.
They beat up the Bears. And they got taken to the wall by the Jets, and the Eagles will probably have a handful with the Jets defense this week. But, it's hard not to put the Eagles number 2 if you're really being honest right now.
Over-under for that game is 41, in case anybody's wondering if you want to bet the over-under. You betting the over?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where you have this great Jets defense, and I know Zach Wilson's playing a little better, the dead cat.
Yeah, he's playing better than a paint can that we've grown accustomed to.
That unbelievable dead cat bounce you get when a guy completes 2 or 3 passes in a row and your social network blows up. Like, what's happened? What has changed about him?
Every Jets fan tweets that picture of like, we are so back. Zach Wilson just completing 7-yard in-breakers.
Yes, right. These very rudimentary passes to open guys. And it's like, yeah, no. But that's one of those games where, a lot of things could happen. I could see points off of turnovers. Like, if the Jets do get an upset here, it's going to go over because they're going to get some kind of pick 6 or something like that, or a strip 6, which is something you see the Eagles giving up, plus a bunch of field goals, et cetera. And then the Eagles wind up with 16 points of their own. So, yeah, I would go over in that one.
Over 41. You heard it here first from Mike Tanier on Eagles Jets. You talked about injury reports. The Giants injury report right now. They got a Sunday night game against the Bills.
Yeah.
By the way, the Bills 14-point favorites in that game. I think it's too low. A few years ago, I think there were 17.5-point favorites against a really bad Texans team. They beat them like 41-3 or something crazy like that. Yeah. I talked a lot about the Giants coming into the year as my team. I was like, look, they're going to take a step back.
Yeah.
And so far, we're seeing all of the like worst case scenarios for them. Like if Daniel Jones doesn't play well, Daniel Jones isn't playing well. If the offensive line stinks, the offensive line stinks. And defensively, like they can only do so much because the offense is so bad. With all these injuries right now, too, I think they get boat raced by a pissed off Bills team who lost a game in London that they probably feel like they should have won. Buffalo, their 2 losses have been by a combined, like 8 points to to a Jets team with a good defense. And Josh Allen was worst case scenario, Josh Allen, like completely living in, like, listening to Dragula by Rob Zombie for 60 minutes, just launching arm punts. And against Jacksonville, they lost to a team that I think is going to be really good throughout the rest of the year. I think they're fine. I think that this is going to be a game where it's okay. Brian Dable, you're going to be missing Josh Allen more than Josh Allen misses you. And I think that's going to be shown on Sunday night.
Yeah. By the way, the Bills are 5-2, covering 14-point spreads.
That is a crazy number.
Okay, 5-2. So you think, the Bills, they trip over themselves once in a while. They're 6-1 straight up. They did manage to lose to the Jaguars a couple of years ago when they were.
Oh my goodness! And like that 9-6 game.
Yes, that was
was a gross football game.
That was a gross football game. But they usually, when they're this much of a favorite, they cover because it's good cause that they're in this case. And the Giants could have lost by 75 last week. There was a 100-yard pick six. And there was a fumble. Was it Mostert or was it the kid who's, I'm afraid to even try to pronounce his last name?
Devon Achien.
See, you say it differently. Everyone says it differently. I have a joke I'm putting up about how many different pronunciations there are.
You remember when the Eagles had a Jay Ajayi and everybody was trying to figure out how to say that?
Yes.
And he was for a minute.
He had a British accent, so when he said it, it would be like, it'd be like, it's like, wait, is that Cockney? Like, I don't even want to try to respond to that. You sound like Ringo trying to say his name. But one of their running backs was like on the middle of a 30-yard run and he gets peanut punched by somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that game looks close. That doesn't look close, but looks like a non-disaster on paper. Like the Dolphins could have beat the Giants by 45 points last week. And this should be a romp for the Bills. And of course, I'm rooting for a romp for the Bills because I don't have to write about that in my Sunday wrap up because it's not news. And I can go to bed. I can file other stuff, or I can go catch up. So what often happens is I go catch up on a game I miss and write about that. But if it's close, then I have to pay attention because it could be the upset of the century or something. So
I think the only bright side of this is I do believe that the Giants are wearing the 1980s throwback uniform. So they got the old blue helmet with just the word Giants across the helmet.
Okay,
great helmet. So at least for worst case scenario, it'll be aesthetically pleasing for the Giants. The Bills are wearing those god awful all red color rushes though, which are just not good.
Don't like this. Remember the old 70s NY Giants helmet?
It's similar to what it is now. They've gone. I think a lot of teams have done this. Like the Giants went, they had the NY and then they just went to Giants and then they reverted back to NY.
Yeah.
I'm more of just a Giants across the helmet guy.
Yeah, it was just block letters. No one even tried. Parcells wrote it and said, "This is our helmet now." Yes, sir. Do you want anything on it? No, just the word Giants with an underline. Okay, sir. But it was iconic for its era. Yeah.
Speaking of Parcells, George Carlin does a fantastic bit about football versus baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how baseball is the only sport where the coach wears the same uniform as the players. And he's like, can you imagine Bill Parcells in his New York Giants football uniform? How funny that would be.
Right.
Every time I hear Bill Parcells, that's what it reminds me of. The Cincinnati Bengals, 2.5-point favorites against the Seattle Seahawks. I see no reason why the Bengals are favored right now. I know they just beat a Cardinals team that, credit to the Cardinals. Everybody thought that they would be just god awful and getting boat raced every weekend. They're playing like hell. So credit to them for that. Cincinnati though, I need to see it against a real team before I say, yep, the Bengals are back. They're riding at 2-3 right now. They're limping at 2-3 right now. If you beat a Seahawks team at home and get back to 500, that is a very good spot to be. But if you're 2-4, well, somehow the Steelers are in first place in that division, and Baltimore is also at 3-2. We'll see with Cleveland. But if you're the Bengals, this is as close to a must-win, I feel like, as you can get in terms of just needing to get right now.
Yeah, in fact, I was just on the FTN Network podcast with Aaron Schatz, and he does the odds. And if the Bengals lose, their playoff odds go down to 10%.
That's crazy.
10%. Because after the bye, they get the 49ers and Bills.
Back to back. That's crazy.
Right. Right. And I went because I knew I was going to be talking about that game. I went back and watched it again this morning and looked at it because like I came out of Sunday. That was not one of the games I really focused on. It's like, oh, maybe the Bengals are back to a degree. And then you watch that game and the offensive line is not playing particularly well. The defense is not playing well. They're giving up gas yardage, to Moore and to Connor and a misdirection play. And it's like when I do like this with my dog, and the dog runs that way and I throw the ball the other way. And that's how they handle misdirection. And, the fact of the matter is there's not a human in Arizona who can cover Jamar Chase at all.
Yeah.
So eventually it's like, oh my God, we're in this really close game. Okay, throw it to that guy and you get the big win out of it. And you get a pick six because, Dobbs is playing hard, but he's Dobbs. He is the 60th best quarterback in the world or whatever, and he throws a pick six in his own territory. The Bengals aren't back because they win that game. The Bengals are like still alive and better than the bottom feeders of the NFL. So the only reason I'm not like jumping on the Seahawks right now, and I told Aaron this, it's been so long since I've seen a Seahawks game because they had the bye.
Yeah, the bye.
And there was a Monday nighter before that. There was like this sleeper against the Giants, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know who they are right now. I'm guessing they're pretty good. They can prove that this week, but like I don't have all this confidence in my take on the Seahawks. I feel like it's been a month since I've watched them.
Yeah, like this feels like a game where you could feel all the confidence in the world taking Seattle at +2.5 or just taking them straight up, and then the Bengals just, without you even noticing until it's too late, just flip you two massive birds as they win. So that's one I'm staying away from personally. I did want to bring this up as well. The 49ers are only 7-point favorites against the Browns.
Yes. Let me check that. But yeah, and we don't know if Deshaun's playing.
That's what I'm saying. Hop on this, everybody. Even if Deshaun is playing. Like, What are we doing here? I get that the Browns defense is good, but come on now. Yeah,
I agree. And it's the Browns defense has to be fueling that to a degree where the house is banking on a low-scoring game. And I know what some people say. The house knows whether he's playing or not. Like, this conversation is going on in Deshaun's brain. The house doesn't know anybody who knows Deshaun, who knows like how healthy he is or unhealthy he is, right? So it's not one of these things where they have inside information. Maybe when the line moves on Saturday morning or something like that, Deshaun told his barber, let's go with barber, what was going on there. But I jumped on that. I teased it as soon as I saw it was still -7 because I woke up this morning, saw Deshaun wasn't practicing, went to expect it off the board, and it was at -7. I teased it to -6.5.
Okay.
And I took this. If it's 24-17, I want the win. And
that's fine. I think going an alt spread here is totally fine because you can still get money. Like especially the over under is 37.5. I would take the over.
Yeah, I take the over because you're going to get points off of turnovers. Now does PJ Walker probably starting?
That's the thing.
not that other kid. Not that poor kid they threw out there.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the DTR high.
GT.
He's are the leaders of the DTR high, but we were severely disappointed.
Yeah, you know what? You can get carried away with these lads that run well. You can really do that if you're not careful. And where was he? Louisville DTR? No, he was
UCLA.
UCLA via UNLV.
Yes.
And I watched a lot of it. And like, this is a fun guy, and it's like, do not take the Kool-Aid on this RPO throwing, scrambling. Little guy, and you can if you're not careful. And I took him too. I took him in the first game. I took the cover against the Ravens. I was not anticipating a 6 turnover game or whatever that turned out to be. Something hellacious.
No, he was like the preseason darling. I was a degenerate and bet on like the Hall of Fame game, and he made me money in the Hall of Fame game. So I was pretty happy about that.
That's different.
Yeah. Yes, very much.
Right. If you're hiving on a scrambling quarterback in the Hall of Fame game where you think he's just going to run around and do crazy crap, then you definitely do it. But then when you're facing the Ravens defense, you probably back off on that.
Yeah. I think the over-under depends on how fast the 49ers score and how quick they decide to get Purdy out of there if it comes to that.
Yeah.
If it's like a 27-6 first half, that's great. You only got to get a couple more field goals to cover the over. But if it's like if the defense does show up for Cleveland and holds the 49ers as much in check as they can, and it's like a 14-3 it's a 14-6 type first half, then that's when I think people start being worried. But even then, I don't trust the Browns offense enough to stay on the field long enough to make much of a difference. And the Browns is going to get tired. And we know how good the offense is for the 49ers, where they're going to eventually open the floodgates.
Yeah, and people haven't noticed that the Deshaun Watson-led offense is not particularly.
It's awful, man. Like, how much of a difference is PJ Walker? Like, how much is the drop off from Deshaun Watson to PJ Walker right now?
Yeah, well, Walker's bad, and Walker's very turnover. Yeah, he's very turnover prone. He's kind of got like a YOLO style to him. He was a guy a couple of years ago. He had a hive when he was in Carolina.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
XFL stuff, and everybody loved him because of that.
Right. And so I don't know for sure, but I mean, I do remember we watched that Steelers game, and it's like the Steelers have no business winning this game if you're not simultaneously giving them turnovers as Deshaun and then running around committing penalties.
Yeah.
And like, we're going to pretend that like we know who Deshaun Watson is right now. Like, it's out of character for him to do stupid things. Oh, is it? I'm sorry. We're talking about the consummate professional that, we can count on here. To like
the upstanding citizen, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it's like, well, back in 2019 with the Texans, like, shut up. That was 4 years ago. Like, the completely different universe.
Absolutely.
And he was doing all these things that he got accused of and we didn't know.
Yes.
So,
whatever. To hell with them. All of them.
Take the Niners.
Yes, take the Niners, take the points, and run as fast as you can. An underdog that I'm so hesitant on picking, but I'm gonna do it. I can't. I am their Jake Gyllenhaal, and they are my the fella from Brokeback Mountain who I just cannot quit. I'm taking the Commanders straight up against the Falcons. They are 2.5-point dogs. They are on the road. Look, I think this is perfect for this bet, though, because Desmond Ridder just had the game of his life against the Texans. And call me crazy, I don't think that's going to happen again or consistently. And for as much as Sam Howell has been up and down this season, I think that's just kind of his MO at this point. Yeah. Like, he's like a box of chocolates. Like, you think 1 week you'll bite into it, he's like, oh man, this one's got caramel in it. The next week you bite into it, oh Jesus Christ, this has deodorant in it. We're throwing that away. Like, so I just think that's kind of who Sam Howell is. Like, he's kind of a little bit of Heineke, which is funny enough because
this could be the Heineke revenge game.
This could be the Heineke revenge game if Ridder plays poor enough. So the Commanders are 2.5-point dogs. Their defense has been so disappointing, man. Like, that was kind of the talk of the town. Mm-hmm. Jack Del Rio doesn't seem to know what to do with his personnel. Emmanuel Forbes is struggling. They're giving they have invested so much into that defensive line, and it's kind of underperforming right now. All of that said, I'm still taking Washington plus 2.5 against Atlanta, who I don't trust their offense to perform consistently. The same way I don't really trust the Commanders to do things consistently. But I think this is the week where the Commanders are up and the Falcons are down.
You got so much here. First of all, that was the game of Desmond Ridder's life.
He threw for like 300 some yards, did he not?
They scored 19 points.
And that's what I'm saying, Mike.
It was nothing but yak. It was all yak. It was the thing that we would joke that Brock Purdy does is the thing Desmond Ridder does, and they scored 15 points. So, okay, fair. I'll call that the game of his life because
that wasn't supposed to be a compliment for Desmond Ridder. That was me pointing out that he's not good.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, going back to Cincinnati, I've never seen what this guy is supposed to be phenomenal. I mean, like, at Cincinnati, I thought, oh, he's okay. This is. Secondly, the other guy in Brokeback was Heath Ledger, was it not?
That's the name I couldn't think of. I don't know how. I'm a Batman fanatic, and Heath Ledger is the name that I brain farted on.
Yes, you brain farted on that. So that was the other guy on Brokeback. Then we got the Jack Del Rio somewhere in there, and
I don't know what he's doing defensively right now, man.
He hasn't known what he was doing defensively since he was playing linebacker for the Vikings years ago. So, part of it is their secondary is horrendous. So whatever you're doing with your front four is only going to get you so much. And I think I've seen a lot of good successful plays, even against the Eagles, from their front four. You can just pick on their secondary. You talk about that kid Forbes. Is he the kid they took ahead of Gonzalez?
They took him the pick before Christian Gonzalez went. Yep.
Yeah, great call there. That's the front office with their genius at work. And I think he's the potential to be a really good ball player. He went out there and got destroyed by A.J. Brown. Then he got destroyed by, I'm drawing a blank last week. He just got obliterated.
Whomever the Bears receivers are, DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. It was DJ Moore, who's the one guy. You got one guy. Stop the one guy, and he was helpless against it. But you can probably stop Drake London because Ritter, fake Mariota can't get him the ball. I got a rule against betting on the Falcons, and I try to avoid betting on Falcons games. So take the Commanders if you're so inclined. But like
the over-under is 42.5. I am going way under for this game.
That's the trick, especially with the 49ers, because I was scarred so many times by them going down by 24 points against somebody, and then Matt Ryan going into look, I'm still good mode.
I'm still good.
Right, where it's like the garbage time touchdowns would just be falling from trees. So I mean, I can't see Ritter doing that same kind of thing, but I'm still kind of Falcons damaged in terms of over-under. So no, I'm not playing it.
Maybe I'll take it up a little bit. Maybe I'll like buy a few points and go to like under 46.5.
You're right. One thing is you're right about Cal. He's going to be a boom or bust kind of guy, especially when you've got McLaurin and you got Dotson. So like he can get the ball to these guys who can do something with it, and then he gets sacked 11 times. So
no, Sam Howell, to his credit, like he kind of has that Josh Allen thing in him where he constantly plays like he just beer bonged 4 Red Bulls and he's just going a million miles an hour at all times. Which we've seen like against Denver, they were down 18 and they came back and won largely because of him.
Right.
But then you got games where he just plays really bad, like against Buffalo, where he throws a ton of picks.
Right.
Again, he's a first-year starter. I'm not too terribly worried. I think he'll be fine per se. Like a bridge starter guy, potential of being like a middle of the pack, kind of like Baker Mayfield. I think that's kind of his ceiling.
Right. Somewhere in there. I was looking at quarterbacks. I was going to run tomorrow, I think, at the Messenger, who got sacked like 27 times in their first 5 games. And not surprisingly, a lot of them are actually good quarterbacks because they would have gotten benched. You know, it was like the rookie in his first year along the way. But I saw Jake Plummer's name in there. Jake
Plummer.
Now, there was a guy who something was going to happen with.
Yeah, he got to an AFC Championship game.
Yes, yeah. And again, within a lot of structure, he was able to do these other things. And when he was on the Cardinals, well, it was interesting. And he would pull these upsets and would have these big games, and then he'd have your 5-sack, 3-interception type games. Yeah. And that could be what Hal does for the foreseeable future.
I think that's a tremendous comp for Sam Howell. That's perfect. Very good. The Ravens and Titans. That game is in Tennessee. The Ravens are 4 point. What's that? Oh, it's in London. Yeah, sorry, you're right. I'm looking at the how it's stacked. Yeah. So in London, Sunday morning, 4-point favorites are the Ravens. Over/under is 41.5. I don't know what to make of Tennessee, man. They're the same thing. They're the walking embodiment of Sam Howell. Like you don't know what they're gonna give you every week. Like they'll beat the Bengals up and down the field, but then they'll get destroyed by the Browns.
Right.
I don't know, man. I think that there's a very clear 7-win ceiling on this team where it would be a lot lower if Vrabel wasn't the head coach.
Yes.
Tajay Spears is fun. That's about as much as I can say about their offense right now. Like Derrick Henry hasn't really looked like Derrick Henry too much this year, but we kind of know what Tennessee is. I think we know that Baltimore is better. Baltimore should win. They're coming off a game that they should have won against Pittsburgh, and I think that they'll get right this week.
Just dropping passes here in honor of the Ravens receiving core.
8 drop passes last week, Mike.
8 drop passes that felt like 18, and they were just these ugly, unbelievable drops. It wasn't like borderline stuff.
3 of which would have been touchdowns.
Yes, at least 3 touchdowns in the group. The Titans, I look at it and I call it like the band parent offense, because as a marching band parent, a lot of times I show up for the game and I just want to get to halftime. I don't have any emotional investment in the game, so I want them to run off tackle and get 2 plays and a first down. 2 plays in the first down, 2 plays, and the clock just ticks and ticks and ticks and ticks. So you get to halftime quickly. I can watch my kid at halftime and then possibly go grab a beer and come back to pick my kid up because I don't care about the second half. And the Titans, the Titans are like that for me because I'm usually not watching them live. I'm usually watching them, Monday morning on the replay. Right. And it's let's get this replay over with. So let's matriculate down the field and not, I'm going to fast forward to a punt, fast forward through a field goal. That's the Titans offense. It is very slow. It's very methodical. It looks like a high school offense sometimes because you'll have 3 guys in the backfield. You have 2 backs up front. And there's times where it's this is actually interesting, but it's so plotting. They cannot protect Ryan Tannehill unless it's unless they can stay balanced. They can protect him with play action and the threat of Henry. But if it's 2nd and 10, it's punt's coming. Punt's coming. Yep. Sack, punt, and go.
And for the Ravens too, I think they were one of the more overhyped teams coming into this season, not because of Lamar or anything. Lamar's great,
Mhm.
It's the fact that every year they get injured beyond belief. And
Yes.
already their secondary's been dealing with a lot of injuries. Marlon Humphrey just played his first game. Their receivers can't stay healthy if their life depended on it. Rashad Bateman's already dealt with injury. Odell gets hurt every other play. Zay Flowers has been fun. Like, he's been
Yeah.
very fun to watch.
Right.
And we know how good Andrews is, but I mean, they're relying a lot on like Justice Hill and whomever they call up from whomever's respective practice squad.
And here's DuVernay having a role in the offense again. Yay, we've been waiting 5 years for that not to happen. And
it feels like he's been on that roster for 13 seasons.
Yes, yeah, he's going to make it like their wall of fame or something like that. Just
just because he's been there forever.
You're going to make him a quality control assistant. Maybe that's fine. That's probably a good place.
He's their Udonis Haslam.
What's that?
I don't know how much you care about basketball. I don't really care about basketball, but Udonis Haslam, who played for the Heat for literally like 22 years and was on the bench for the final like 13 of them. He was just like their 14th guy on the bench who they kept there for moral support.
Oh my God. I remember the Saints had Fred McAfee forever.
Fred McAfee.
Now, he was their special teams captain, so it's like Matthew Slater. Like, why does
yeah,
like, well, he's captaining the special teams. He does a lot out there. He's sort of a coach on the field. But like, you'll see guys like that. But that's not who DuVernay is.
No, he's a punt returner.
Right. You just can't get rid of him no matter what you do. And yeah, I feel like that's it. They were a little overhyped. And it's the injuries, which you always, when you're doing projections, say, well, this can't happen every single year. And then you have the fourth down weirdness where you say, this can't happen every year. And you saw the play before halftime last week.
What was that?
You cannot give me a good, satisfactory explanation of what that coaching staff was doing. It just, I think you reach this point, and as an older man, and then like you assume everybody can do everything that you can think of while sitting over your coffee at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So, Lamar Jackson and Linda Baum and these guys can go out there and they can have a play ready and they can run that play. But if they don't get the read they like, they can call a timeout right away and get the kicker out there. And everything. Like, you can't do all of that.
Yeah.
You can't do all of that. You're creating a situation where somebody like loses track of what they're supposed to do. And in that case, like, we're going for this because we're going for it. And
I don't know what, because they were up 10-0 on the Steelers. And if you're up 10-0 on this Steelers team, that should be like, okay, if we put this in cruise control, we win.
Right.
And they somehow, albeit like there was a blocked punt and Lamar threw a really ugly interception on the 5-yard line where that probably would have sealed the deal.
It starts with Justice Hill, catches like a short pass over the middle, starts running, gets 15, 20 yards of yak and fumbles.
Yeah.
So you're already seeing sort of the Ravens effect right now. He should be the number 3 running back. He shouldn't be out there doing that. That should have been J.K. Dobbins or whatever. And so he fumbles. So you give up another field goal opportunity. Then you give another field goal opportunity. Right there, it could have been around 16-3 if you don't make these dumb errors. And then you are in cruise control.
Yep.
Okay. But you're not. You're at 10-3. So you're stuck in this situation where block kick safety and all this other goofy stuff. And my God, I'm glad the Steelers are on bye. I don't like.
Me too. I need a break, especially because, I help run a Steelers-oriented site.
Yeah.
And if I have to write more words about Matt, I'm happy I get a little bit of a break from the Matt Canada discourse for a solid 7 days.
What discourse is there?
It's really the same thing. And now that I think about it,
is it just his burner accounts defending him against the world?
That's where Steelers Twitter and the Steelers fans have gone, is delving deep into the Twitter world and finding what they assume to be Matt Canada burners, but really it just turns out to be a burner pretending to be a burner. Which, hey, salute to that guy for that level of dedication, because that's hilarious.
Yes,
but yeah, man, it's same old story with the Steelers and Matt Canada. He should have been gone last year. He's not. I kind of stuck with him until who knows when. Like, I think that winning against Baltimore was kind of like a long-term, like, it would have been better if they lost, because you would have had a perfect excuse. Okay, we're going into the bye, fire Canada, give quarterback coach Mike Sullivan or one of these offensive assistants a chance to run plays. Now you can't really do that.
Right, you can't. I don't think they would have done that anyway. And I ask other people, like, what is Canada supposed? What was his qualification coming into this thing?
Coming into this role?
Yeah.
Like Pitt, LSU quarterback coach.
Right.
That's college quarterback coach is basically
college quarterback coach. Does he get credit for Burrow or something like that? Because And even when you take credit for Burrow, it's like, yeah, I made a quarterback who could throw to Justin Jefferson and Jamar.
Even then, that was more Joe Brady than anything.
Right, and he's nonsense. I mean, that's what you call talent. That's what you call having talented guys, and you like ride their coattails. But yeah, he was at that level, and then he came in, and he was like, I guess Roethlisberger got along with him or something like that for a year.
Yeah, he was the quarterback coach in Ben's 2021, and then Fiechner got fired after 21 or 20, and then Canada was promoted from within because he was the quarterback coach.
Right, and because like whenever you see Adam Gase, like where did this nitwit come from? And it's like, well, he was tight with Peyton Manning, and he had success under these circumstances. Like, oh, I understand. Like, what's he trying to do? Oh, he's trying to turn Sam Darnold into Peyton Manning. Well, that's stupid, but I understand what the concept is that this idiot is trying to do. And then I look at Canada, it's like, I can't even go back to the thing he did, like Arthur Smith. What is Arthur Smith trying to do besides besides
make sure that Kyle Pitts and his best players aren't a part of the offense?
Right, but it's like, why are there 17 play fakes and 37 pieces of motion? It's like, well, he came up with Derrick Henry, and he was trying to build everything around the fake of Henry. Like, I understand that. So I don't think it works real well, but I understand. Right. I have no idea what Canada's thing is supposed to be.
If you look at how that offense runs too, like it is far too reliant on like back shoulder comebacks, 13 yards down the field to George Pickens, or it is a inside zone that goes nowhere, or power that has the left tackle not sealing the edge, rather he comes up to go to the second level. Like the concepts don't make sense.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have a quarterback that's limited already, you're not going to get far. The defense is, without TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, this team is 0-5 right now, and it's an ugly 0-5.
And it's an ugly 0-5, and you're right. Like these sort of routine plays, and it's like, oh, they're doing a little a bootleg rollout. Isn't there supposed to be a tight end there? No, there's not. There's just a free rusher. It's like, okay, if there's no tight end there, isn't there a quick guy to throw to? Oh, like that's not there either. Like who wrote this play up then? Who wrote this play up? Did you just put it on a cocktail napkin and throw it out there? It's like, that's not how other teams run this fundamental play.
What other games do we need to get quick notes on? The Dolphins, 13.5-point favorites against the Panthers. They should cover that.
Yes, they should. Yes, they should. I have no concept of what the Panthers are even hoping.
Sounds like a not good situation if this early into Frank Reich's coaching reign, we're already talking about David Tepper being too hands-on.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, no, that they don't have the bodies. You can complain about Reich, and that probably is some complaints about Reich. They do not have the humans to compete.
Who is like their number one receiver right now is like 97-year-old Adam Thielen, and then a drawing of Tim Biakabatuka. Like that is what Bryce Young has to work with right now.
Mushin Muhammad's old
Mushin Muhammad, yes.
Like running around out there. Right. I mean, it's Mingo.
Yeah, the kid from Ole Miss.
And he was hurt. It's DJ Chark running clear out routes, and like
DJ Chark hasn't been good since 2019.
Right, and even then he was almost like a fantasy phenomenon. It was him and Minshew, surprise throw catches up the boundaries.
He was like a 1 year, kind of like Terrell Pryor that 1 year in was it Cleveland, where he just had like a random good year as a random good year.
And that was interesting. I think both of them, if you actually look at like what they did when their team was trailing by 10 points in the fourth quarter, there was these
where most of their production came from.
Huge numbers that were coming in there. The kid Marshall, who was one of those guys who like when you have no receivers, somebody winds up getting the ball and making a couple plays. And it was Marshall for a couple of years there. And the local fans will be like, well, he's a building block. And it's like, he's a wide receiver 4. He's a wide receiver.
Like good teams, yeah.
On a good team. He's not a building block. He's getting bulk stats there. So that's who he's throwing to. The tight ends are like Tommy Tremble and
I think Shi Smith is there. Remember him from the Senior Bowl a couple years ago?
I do remember Shi Smith. He was a North Carolina guy, I think.
North Carolina State.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that was last year too, wasn't it? Or am I just losing track of time?
I think it was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. Fantasy people are loving like late in these games, Thielen catches like 6 passes, and Miles Sanders like gets like some draw plays and screens, and you get all this PR and stuff like that. It's not a good scene. I'm going to admit I did not do any homework on the Panthers this week because it's just like.
The Vikings play the Bears. The Vikings are 1-4. The Bears are also 1-4. If the Vikings lose this game, does Kirk Cousins get traded later on in the week?
No, because he's at the end of his contract. Who's going to trade for 11 games of Kirk Cousins?
I mean, the Jets is the obvious answer right now, just because,
What can the Jets offer? There's no second-round pick next year. a first-round pick for Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I don't think you're doing that.
For 11 games for third and fourth round picks, that's where Quessy starts being like, probably get compensatory stuff and things like that. Are you going to eat that salary? Can the Jets eat that salary right now?
Here's my thought process on it is like in hockey every year at the trade deadline, like if you're a team that feels like you can go win the cup, you just stock up on a bunch of hired guns that are on expiring contracts and try to make a run at it. And then all of them go play elsewhere next year. I think that's what Kirk could be with the Jets is, okay, if the Jets decide, okay, we'll package like a bunch of mid-round picks over the next 2 years for Kirk Cousins, we're going to go all in this year. If we have competent quarterback play, we feel like we can make a run at this thing. We'll take 11 games plus playoffs of Kirk. We'll wish him well after the season, regardless of result, and ride forward with Aaron Rodgers for the next couple of years. I think that's kind of best case scenario what it could be for them.
That's like how you put something together in our industry. When we want to put something together, that's how you put it together. And then let's be blunt. Like, well, here's a scenario where it makes sense, and we write it up. And
right.
And it could, and something like that could happen. And then the McAfee show the next week, and Aaron Rodgers is on talking about the fact that Kirk Cousins is the quarterback just for this year. It's fine.
Oh.
Aaron Rodgers, your thoughts? So it's 3 straight wins with Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers, your thoughts?
I think Aaron Rodgers would like it though too, because remember when COVID was a big thing, Kirk said if he dies, he dies. So like I think those two are kind of in the same boat when it comes to the whole vaccine thing. So this might be the Jets.
That's what they have in common, anti-vaxxers. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there, but there's not going to be a deadline trade for 11 weeks of Kirk Cousins. I don't think that's happening. But and I wrote about that in the Messenger. It's like Quessy's done a good job. Like he made sure that they can cut loose Cousins at the end of the year. They did not extend him. So
yeah.
They have to eat some cap space, et cetera. They don't have to do anything with Danielle Hunter because they shortened his contract. He can just walk to free agency. They extended Hawkinson. So there's not a lot of guys in the Vikings at the trade deadline where you say, well, you can move him and some other team's going to grab him because they got rid of Thielen. He would have been.
I was going to say they got rid of all these veterans already where,
right.
they were pretty much just trying to get money ready.
Oh, and by the way, Jefferson's hurt and Addison is on the injury report.
Goodness gracious. So KJ Osborne is going to be their number 1 if Jordan Addison doesn't play.
Yes, and Jalen, not Rieger, Naylor.
Oh, my God. Is he still there?
It's Naylor, not Rieger.
He changed his last name? Or is it a completely different guy?
It's a different dude. But I love the idea that Jalen Rieger changed his last name to Naylor. Because that, witness relocation.
He changed his name.
Eagles fans aren't going to rip me 3 years down the road because I changed my name. Shows up.
Oh, that's
actually sews a couple different letters. Only gets halfway through the jersey. Yeah, I was going to be Nailwitz or something like that. I ran out of letters from Joanne's Fabric, so now I'm Naylor. No, that's a different.
I got to tell you, I have no idea who Jalen Naylor is. So that's.
Why do I want to think he was on the Falcons, which is not a great endorsement?
No, I was going to say that sounds like a Falcons receiver. They got Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins and Jalen Naylor sounds right.
Yes, Mac Hollins getting the ball constantly and then complaining when he doesn't get the ball. No. This isn't originally. Went to Michigan State.
Michigan State. Oh, okay. You know what? That does ring a bell. Okay. All right.
Right. I'm sure we did another thing in our industry. We did a little draft write-ups with him.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point I wrote a few words about Jalen Naylor.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right.
Good speed combo.
What do you put into Justin Fields having 8 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks?
I'm watching carefully.
Okay.
I'm monitoring the situation.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. For anybody who is a psycho enough to bet on this game, the Vikings are 3-point favorites. Jacksonville and Indy, I think that could be an interesting game. The Minshew revenge game with Anthony Richardson out for a month. Games in Duval where the Colts have not had the most success as of late. Jacksonville 4.5-point favorites coming off 2 big wins in London. They're 3-2, doing well.
I did so many phone and interviews and radio stings and podcasts where they talk about the Bills looked really jet lagged. Is that like unfair advantage for the Jaguars, and should the Jaguars move to London? And I'm like, what the hell are we talking about? What the hell? Have you flown in your life to England or Ireland?
I have not, luckily.
Okay. It is a long trip. It is not that long a trip. And you're less likely to get jet lag on the way there because the couple of times I've gone to Europe, you usually take a flight that leaves at 11 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
You take your Dramamine or whatever, and you sleep for a couple hours. And if you're in a charter, like I'm on a coach, if you're in a charter, you sleep for a couple hours. And then you go to your luxury hotel because you are the visiting team like the Buffalo Bills. And unless you are and unless you are the chief of operations and the chief of the legal department, you go to your separate hotel rooms and sleep for a few more hours. So you should not be jet lagged. And then also it's Sunday. You flew on Friday. Okay. Anyway, that was like I was like, what are we really talking about? We're going to talk about jet lag here for a team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl team. Anyway, who are we even talking about?
Who was it? Oh, the Colts and the Jaguars. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there won't be any. Indianapolis is a short flight to Jacksonville, so that shouldn't be a problem.
There shouldn't be any jet lag.
Right. Aaron was going over with me. Like statistically, the Colts look like this sort of medium average.
They've been better than expected.
Right. And the Jaguars look like a medium average team because on third down they completely lose their minds and forget.
And they quietly haven't been scoring. And when they have been, it's because the defense has been really hooking them up with good field position.
They haven't been scoring. They've not been throwing over the middle. Aaron had some numbers on that. Like everything is sideline shots. There's a lot of outs, which I think you'd expect with Calvin Ridley. You want to work the boundaries a little bit. But the thing is, I don't have a feel of the Gardner Minshew-led Colts. I don't even know what they're supposed to look like when they game plan for a week. And the talent difference between the teams, I start to feel it. If I try, the moment I think Colts, and I might still play Colts, I'm like we're considering it, but like Jaguars they should be a more talented team, and it's Minshew. It's Lawrence versus Minshew for God's sake. When you take it down to like the boxing match,
and like defensively, the Jaguars have been really good this year, which is surprising. Yeah. Coming into the year, it was the complete opposite argument. Like, oh man, the offense is going to really have to carry the defense. The defense has been carrying the offense throughout the first month and a half or so. In terms of the Colts, like they got some guys that I really like, and then like there's a very clear reason for doing things. Like I understand why they take their certain players and draft guys like Juju Brents. That made perfect sense. Yes. I think he fits in perfectly. It's kind of surprised that they cut Darius Rush, but you look at guys like Zaire Franklin's really good. Yeah. Shaq Leonard when he's consistently healthy. EJ Speed I think is a little bit slept on. Buckner. So defensively, I really like what they're doing. Offensively, like with Minshew, it's going to be okay. We're going to focus a lot on with Zach Moss, and now Jonathan Taylor's back for the run game. We'll see if Josh Downs starts becoming a little bit bigger focal point of the offense. I think he was named like the number 2, and he had a big game a few weeks ago. So they're getting production out of these guys, which is good to see. It's just a matter of okay, can Minshew put them in a respectable situation and keep them in it? Yeah,
I think you'll see a lot of RPO type stuff because I think he runs that well. And then trying to figure out a way to get the play action and the deep shot off of that. Downs, it's like he had a deep reception, and they were doing a lot of motion, like speed motion with him, and you get his motion screen and stuff like that. You can incorporate that into an RPO type game and get him the ball like that. But again, so much of what I saw from the Colts, and we have seen a lot of Minshew because he has played in 2 games here, it's designed for Richardson.
Sure.
I don't know how much of it can be reconfigured successfully for Minshew.
This offense is supposed to be Philadelphia Eagles light.
Yes, and it looks like it when Richardson's out there. They do a lot of similar things to that.
All right, before we get out of here, Chiefs Broncos tonight. Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites. The Broncos have not beaten the Kansas City Chiefs since Barack Obama had 1 year left in his second term. That is saying a lot about the dominance of this quote unquote rivalry. Broncos are 1-4, flirting with 1-5. The Chiefs are 4-1, flirting with 5-1. I don't see this going any differently than it has in the past decade.
No, I don't see it either. I'm looking at the 11-point spread and saying there might be something there. The injury report for the Broncos looks pretty dire, particularly on defense. You got guys like Baron Browning out. Mike Kleiss just wrote something like the team is ready to move on from Frank Clark, who's very
And he's basically done with that.
yeah, and Gregory is gone. And like, but the flip side of that is, how healthy is Kelsey going to be? Are you going to limit him a little bit in this game where you should be able to win elsewhere? So it should be a straight up win for the Chiefs. But if this is another game that turns into this moppy thing like the Jets game did, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, like quietly, the Broncos' offense has been like fine. I think they're 12th in EPA. Like Russell's been fine. The offense has been pretty solid. It's just their defense is 32nd in EPA per play. And when it comes to allowing a lot of rushing yards, they are the poster child for that. I think that we're going to have a very heavy Isaiah Pacheco, Jarrett McKinnon type, especially if Kelsey isn't 100%. There's no reason to force the issue.
One thing though, like never bet on the Falcons, never bet like an over prop on a Chiefs running back ever.
Yeah.
Because we can all look at that and say, and this is a big game. And Andy's looking at it to say, this is my time to get Justin Ross and, Rashee Rice and all this other nonsense.
I wonder what Justin Ross's anytime touchdown prop is.
Oh my God, we should look that up because I'm going to be bored.
Because I think I might play it just for fun.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up while we're talking here. Touchdown
scores up right now. So anytime touchdowns right now, Justin Ross, drum roll please, is a
plus 850, plus 850.
My goodness. Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing that. Oh, on FanDuel, he's plus 1,300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Folks, shop these props. I mean, I'm bad at that, by the way. I'm an old man. I go to one thing. Shop these props because 1,300 I'm taking.
I would throw like $10 on Justin Ross to score a touchdown at plus 1,300. You kidding me?
Right. It's so ridiculous that it just might work.
Exactly. All right. So I think we're both kind of in the same boat before we get on out of here. Chiefs to win tonight. Fun slate ahead. What do you have coming in the coming days on the Messenger?
Coming days in the Messenger. I right now my mailbag is up, and in addition to answering some questions about the Patriots and the other usual suspects, some of the things we talked about here at the Vikings. I talk about which team is which movie monster.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
I have a lot of it's tricky because I don't watch a lot of horror, but had my son help me a little bit, did some classic horror, went back to like the Psycho era and things like that. So I got that. And I mean, the main thing is you will find me on Monday morning on the Messenger with walkthrough, old-fashioned walkthrough, like the ones I did, Bleacher Report, like the ones I did Football Outsiders. And from there, I would say bookmark, especially in these times. Now you're on Threads now, right?
I pop in occasionally. I'm like the cousin who comes to Thanksgiving and everybody's happy to see on Threads. Like, oh, hey, Jarrett's here. Yeah, that's good.
Check it out now. Check out the difference from last week.
Is it better?
Much better.
Okay. I'll hop on that then.
A lot of our colleagues, a lot of beat writers, a lot of people have started using it more assertively than they were. Like, because everybody was just popping in saying, anything going on here? Okay, bye. It is demonstrably different now. But in these times where you look at X and it's like, is this just a propaganda machine? And then you look at Threads, it's like, this is kind of quiet. Bookmark the Messenger. You get your news, you get your sports, you get your business and finance, and get a news source that isn't like a stream of random people shouting at you.
Okay, I'll hop on Threads a little bit later. I'll start putting some stuff in, and we'll see where it takes us. For me, I did a piece on Kenny Pickett and how the Steelers fans need to take off these rose tinted glasses when it comes to him because he's been bad. Yeah. A lot of fans in the comments weren't happy with me about that, Mike Tanier. I'll tell you that.
Wow. I would. He's getting no support, but
sure.
That stops being an argument after a while. It's like, well,
two things can be true at once. Like the offensive coordinator's bad, but so is the quarterback. And that was kind of my argument throughout the entire piece. So go read that. That's on Behind the Steel Curtain. A bunch of stuff throughout the week on Behind the Steel Curtain, Steelers related. And then USA Today stuff. I'm doing a piece on teams that should trade for Kirk Cousins. So
well, who else? Who do you got besides the Jets?
I'll give you one. I'll say we already talked about them. I'll say the Falcons. Why not? Better than Desmond effing Ritter. It depends. Would he be a fit with that offense? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that similar things like Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins are kind of in that same tier a few years ago. I think that if you put Kirk Cousins with Bijan Robinson and gave him a Drake London lead, he can make Kyle Pitts. He can make some things happen.
You can see just like I'm not going to make mistakes in this situation.
Exactly.
Right. I'm looking at these dudes, and he might tune Arthur Smith out and be like, I know Bijan's going to be available in the flat. I know he's going to get the ball in the flat and break 6 tackles. So I'm not going to do this. Like, take care of business for me, kid. Not to mess your thing up, but like, does Kirk have a no trade clause?
I think he does. That the part of it is, the asterisk or the thing in italics is, he'll have to waive the no trade clause to get it done and whatnot.
Right. Because that's
Just a hypothetical type thing to do on a Thursday afternoon. So that'll be up later on Touchdown Wire for USA Today. Power rankings every Tuesday and Monday. Well, Monday before Monday Night Football, and then my complete write up on Tuesdays. Quarterback list will also be out later. So
nice.
Find out where I rank your favorite quarterback.
You're working.
I'm working hard. So happy to be doing it, and I'm happy to be talking to you, and always happy to be talking to you. So it's always good to see you. We'll do this again very soon. Aaron Schatz will be on this very program next week. So it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for coming, buddy. Appreciate you.
You got it. Jalen Naylor and Jalen Reagor are two different people, folks. Or maybe they're the same person.
That's the moral of this episode.
Conspiracy.
Jalen Naylor and Jalen Reagor are not the same person. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the Pump Fake. We'll see you next week.